He has worked for the last 5 years as an organizer with the National Committee to Free the Cuban Five, planning and participating in a number of marches, rallies, teach-ins, and forums. The issue of the Cuban Five is not well known in the U.S., but it is a major irritant in Cuba and a symbol of what they consider the double standards of American rhetoric against their country. We thought we would have Mr. Puryear introduce this topic tonight. Continuing on to the left is Mr. Jose Pertierra. He practices immigration law in the District of Columbia at the law firm of Pertierra and Toro, PC. He was born in Havana, Cuba. He received his JD from George Washington University. He also holds a master's degree in philosophy from Georgetown University. Mr. Pertierra was counsel to the father of Elian Gonzalez and is currently representing the government of Venezuela in its efforts to extradite Luis Posada Carrillas, accused of downing a passenger airliner in 1976. Mr. Pertierra is a Human Rights Award winner designated by the American Immigration Lawyers Association and a recipient of the Humanitarian Award from Mapafi Foundation. To close the program on a cultural note that takes us away from the political discourse, we are pleased to present the last panelist on the furthest to my left, Madame Cecilia Domelleco. She is an award-winning filmmaker, director, producer, and scriptwriter of Cuba Mía. She brings extraordinary experience to the field of documentary production centered on Latin American themes, as well as those that touch upon the Latino experience in the United States. Her work has earned her over 60 awards at major festivals in the past 5 years. Her documentaries on visionary educational reform in Chile and Uganda are currently airing in over 90 countries and have won numerous international awards. Her work has also appeared on WETA TV and WNET TV, the Discovery Channel, and Channel 13 of Chile. Following her presentation, we will show a clip of her film, Cuba Mía. Then there will be a question and answer session followed by a reception. You can continue the discussion if you wish over a glass of wine or just relax and socialize. So we will begin with a presentation by each panelist. So I now give the floor to Dr. Wayne Smith. Thank you.
I'm supposed to give an historical overview, and I can do that since I've been working on Cuba for 52 years now. I went to work in the Bureau of Intelligence Research in the Department of State in February of 1957. Castro had returned to Cuba December the 2nd of 1956 to begin his revolution. I was immediately put to work on Cuba, never worked on anything else. And a year and a half later, as I had taken the Foreign Service exam and come into the Foreign Service, I was transferred to Cuba, arrived there in August of 1958, and was there until we broke diplomatic relations. So I saw Castro ride into Havana in January of 1959 and saw that first speech that he gave. It was memorable. I think it was January the 9th of 1959, and the most memorable part of it was that they released a flock of white doves just before Castro began to speak. Now this is, the white doves, the symbol of peace, returned to Cuba. Well, yes, but there was more to it than that. Most of the doves fluttered up into the sky, but one returned, landed on Castro's shoulder, and remained there throughout the speech. I was watching at a friend's house, and the cook was watching from the kitchen door, and I heard a gasp, looked back. She had fallen to her knees and was in a trance, swaying, because the white dove is the messenger of the Oshun, the Santeria gods, sent to show people who is the anointed one. So the gods had showed Fidel Castro is the anointed one. Friends, skeptics, said later, the next day, skeptics, both Cuban and American, said, the dove was trained, of course. Well, yes, but, and what and a trick. It's all a trick. The dove was trained. Yes, but what a trick. You know, when you have an Afro-American majority and you have the dove coming down to indicate who is the anointed one. It was very, very effective. We moved on then, inevitably, Cuban-American relations having problems. Castro, well, let me say, Castro was not a communist. He was a Latin American nationalist. He was going to free Cuba and then free Latin America of U.S. domination. And he said, we're going to turn the Andes into the Sierra Maestra of Latin America. There came a point, however, in late 1959 when Castro had given a very hostile speech, so hostile that our ambassador was withdrawn. But Bonsall, Phil Bonsall, the ambassador, believed in dialogue, believed we could come to terms with the Cubans, went back to Washington and convinced them to offer a dialogue with Cuba, and they did. And the Cubans accepted it, this in January of 1960. They accepted it, but indicated they wanted to hold off a few days, even weeks, before appointing a delegation. Before they appointed the delegation in February of 1960, Anastas Mikoyan, the Soviet vice premier, arrived, and the reception, the red carpet reception, was so warm, the speeches so forthcoming, and they signed a number of economic agreements that our conclusion, the U.S. conclusion that was that Castro had made his choice. He was going to side with the Soviets. And so when the Cubans came back a few days later and said they had named their delegation, they were ready to begin discussions, ready to begin negotiations, we were no longer interested. And so no negotiations, the discussions were never held. Not only that, the Mikoyan visit led to the signing in March of 1960 to the finding by Eisenhower, a finding which authorized the CIA to begin movements, activities to overthrow the Castro government. These activities, of course, led to the Bay of Pigs. That also had a very significant result because Castro, who until that point had not declared himself to be a socialist, had not indicated that he was prepared to be aligned with the Soviet Union, but the night before the Bay of Pigs, which he already saw coming, we had already bombed the airfields, Castro indicated for the first time that this revolution is socialist and reached out to the Soviets. Of course, as we know, the Bay of Pigs was that debacle, that rarest of all things, a perfect failure. You land 1,200 guys against a regular army of 60,000 and you think you're going to win? No, certainly did not. It was a miserable failure. But had the result of